Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'll give you guys a moment to pop in. Today is our live immigration update, and I have some very interesting topics to cover today. So I'll just give you guys a moment to pop on in, and then we'll get started. By the way, for those who are joining us for the first time, welcome. And those who have been our usual support. Thanks for joining and welcome to you guys as well. I'm Kay Wilson, Regulated Canadian Immigration Consultant, and I am the lead consultant with Northern Connections Canada Immigration. Today I'm going to be covering some of the recent happenings within the world of immigration, in particular what's happening in Canada, of course. And as you join, let me know where you're joining me from today. I'm coming to you from Regina, Saskatchewan. It's not so cold today. It's about -1, and but we have a lot of snow. So over the last couple of days, it snowed a lot in Regina. So the winter has started. It's actually not officially winter yet. We're supposed to still be in the fall, but as it is in Saskatchewan, winter usually starts early. All right. So I've seen some folks joining from Jamaica. Welcome. Thanks for joining. Hello, hello. Barbados. Awesome. Awesome. And if it's your first time, let me know. Let me know if you're joining us for the first time in our live sessions. All right. I see some folks from Trinidad. Welcome, guys. From Angola. Welcome. What are the possibilities and ways to move to Canada? We'll see if we can touch on that today. I think some of my Panama. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right. So I'm going to start with the recent draws. So this, in October was a busy month for immigration, and I can foresee the rest of the year being very busy as as we wind down the year and as the government seeks to meet their immigration targets, right? So we can expect to see additional program draws and so on as we go further towards the end of the year. But October was very busy. We had about 4 express entry draws in October. In the last week, in fact, we had 3 back-to-back draws in express entry. So for those of you who don't know, express entry is Canada's primary immigration system that they use to draw candidates for permanent residence. So if you are interested in coming to Canada as a permanent resident, then you may want to look at express entry as an initial pathway, initial process, right? I see somebody have a question. I'll get to the questions after. But in October, they had what we call the new category-based draws. So they did have like the regular program draws. So October 10th, they had a program draw, an all program draw, right? So they would have drawn from pretty much all programs that are in express entry. The CRS for that draw was very high, as you can imagine. It was 500. They drew 3,700, a little over 3,700 candidates were invited. And following that, they had a provincial nominee program draw. So this was specific to those in the express entry pool who had been nominated by a province. And of course, you expect that the cutoff for that would have been higher. So it's 776, which means that realistically, the CRS for the lowest scoring candidate prior to getting the provincial nomination was actually 176. No, that is pretty low, right? And I will be touching on some of the PNPs in a little bit, not in great detail, but I'll touch on that a little bit. And we also saw where they had a French language draw, so French language proficiency. So essentially, if you're in the express entry pool and you're bilingual, or if if you speak French, then you can be considered in this particular category of draw. And so they had 300 invitations for French, and the cutoff for this was 486. So it was pretty high, which means that even a lot of people are actually learning French as a means to boost their scores and to help them get invited through, the different program, because it's not just Express Entry that's now awarding points for French and prioritizing the French language, as you'll see when I discuss the immigration plan. Um, and then finally we had a healthcare occupations draw, and this happened on October 26th. And there were 3,600 candidates that were drawn in this particular draw, and the cutoff was 431. So it was not very high, but it would be those who are in the pool who meet the requirements for the healthcare category. So you would have known, if you've been following us for a bit, you would have known that the government had introduced category-based draws, where they will be making draws from the pool based on certain categories. So whether your work experience lies within these particular categories that they're prioritizing, then you have that additional opportunity of being considered and being drawn through those draws, right? So we have healthcare, we have French, we have the trades, we have some agriculture draws in the mix there as well. So quite a bit happening. Outside of Express Entry, there were a few provincial draws as well. So I know British Columbia had a couple draws, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, those, and Ontario. Ontario also had a couple draws as well in October. So it was a pretty busy month for draws. And like I said, as we get closer to the end of the year, they're trying to meet their quotas, their targets that would have been set for candidates at the start of the year. So, this is a great time to make sure that if you're not in any of these programs, if you're not, if you don't have a profile for consideration, it would be great to have a profile in the pool, because anything can really happen, as you can see from these draws. Now I'm going to move to the immigration levels plan. So the government of Canada announced its immigration levels plan for the next couple of years. So from 2024 to 2026, this is basically the plan that sets out the immigration levels and the targets that they're setting for admittance of permanent residents over those years, so the period that are covered. The plan was put forward by Canada's new immigration minister, Mark Miller, and it was released on November 1st. And essentially, based on what the government has released, the plan is aimed at prioritizing economic growth, of course. That's the whole point of immigration for Canada, right? To grow the economy in Canada, and immigrants contribute greatly to that. They want to support family reunification. And so we're seeing numbers allocated towards the family class application. So that's maybe those who have migrated to Canada that want to bring their family here. So they're also prioritizing family reunification, and then also humanitarian support. So with humanitarian, you might see refugee applications, you might see humanitarian and considerate applications being included in that as well. So that is essentially, those three are the priorities where the particular plan is concerned. And they also have noted that they want to balance the need for economic growth with putting plans in place for housing and infrastructure and healthcare, of course, because if we're getting more people into the country, you have to have the infrastructure in place to support that additional population growth. So and I think that's the reason for that has contributed greatly to some of the challenges that Canada is also experiencing right now as it relates to housing and healthcare. So they are putting more thought into planning immigration in conjunction with these infrastructure, and ensuring that there is their support for newcomers to Canada when they get here. The minister also noted a greater emphasis on filling labor gaps. So this is basically to use immigration to ensure that the gaps in Canada's labor market are being filled. And that means as well, and I think that's why the category-based draws were introduced, because the category-based draws will help to focus on specific categories, specific occupations where the need in Canada is greater. And one of the areas that he did mention was construction. So I foresee maybe trades draws targeting construction workers. You might see more LMIAs in that sector as well, maybe more LMIA approvals and granting of those approvals for that people who work in that particular sector. But he did know that construction was a major industry, especially with the plan to build more houses, right? Because of the housing situation in Canada. They note critical sectors as well that they will continue to focus on to fill labor gaps. So we have healthcare, which is an obvious one. I think healthcare will be a priority in any country, in every country. They have science, so STEM occupations, so science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So people who work in those sectors, once your occupation falls within, that area, we have the skilled trades, transportation, and agriculture. Right, so those are all critical sectors that they have noted that they want to fill labor gaps in. So I'll go to the numbers. So essentially, remember this plan covers 2024 to 2026. All right. So I'll put that data up for you. I think in 2024, the plan is to admit 485,000 permanent residents in that year. So 485,000. And then in 2025 and 2026, it will be stabilized at 500,000. Right. So the plan here is to I think this is the first year that I've seen Canada actually not increase their targets year over year. And I think the reason for this, just as they mentioned, that they want to ensure that when newcomers come, there is infrastructure here for you. So they have houses for you to rent or to buy at an affordable rate, right? They want to make sure that healthcare infrastructure is there and all the other things that will be needed when you have a population that's growing. And so as a result, they have stabilized the 500,000 target between 2025 and 2026. And I think it's going to be a matter of waiting and see. Let's see what happens over the next couple of years in terms of how we're addressing the current issues that are existent in Canada. And then we will be able to, from that, have a better picture of what immigration might look like long term. As per the previous immigration levels plan, we do see where the bulk of immigrants that are going to be admitted will be admitted through the economic immigration programs. So like I mentioned, Express Entry is going to be a big one. You also see a great percentage of the numbers being allocated to the provincial nominee programs. So if you have an opportunity to apply to any PNP, or if you qualify, or if you think you may qualify, that will also be one of the key areas to target. So it's going to be the federal high skills programs through Express Entry, and it's going to be provincial nominee programs, especially for people who are outside Canada, right? So those are that's where the bulk of the numbers are accounted for. And then of course the rest, the next in line would be the family class programs. So again, remember, one of the main targets, or one of the main priorities, I should say, that they had was family reunification. So they have allocated some numbers to that. And then we have the rest kind of scattered throughout. We have the business immigration program. So we have the self-employed programs. We have the startup visa program. So those are two of the federal business immigration programs that would be accounted for in this plan. We have the Atlantic Immigration Program, so a portion allocated to that. That has been a very successful program over the years. We have the rural and northern, so we have the pilots. So we have the economic pilots, the caregiver pilots, the agri-food pilot, the rural and northern immigration pilot. We have the economic mobility pathways project. So we have allocations straight across the board, but like I said, the bulk is going to be provincial nominee programs. So you definitely want to focus on PNPs, and then of course the federal high skills program, which are housed through Express Entry. All right, so outside of that, the minister did also have some additional announcement, right? And they mentioned laying out pathways to strengthen Canada's immigration system in general. And some of them I would have touched on already, but some key things that he noted that were already underway or that they were working on or will be working on. One is positioning the immigration system to adapt quickly to respond to certain vulnerabilities. So this is really where the humanitarian aspect of immigration comes in. So HNC applications, refugee applications. So especially with what's happening today, Canada has always been big on providing, refugee programs to different parts of the world where needed. So that is one that they have mentioned. The other one is developing a francophone immigration policy. So like I said before, Canada is big on French, of course. It's a bilingual country, and they want to promote the French language as well. So they're developing a francophone immigration policy, and that again is to encourage the language, speaking French and learning French, and bringing more immigrants who are bilingual or who speak French. They, as I mentioned as well, integrating housing, healthcare, infrastructure planning in Canada's immigration levels plan. So I think that's a very good move, because again, you want people to come to Canada and experience what Canada is known for. You don't want to come to Canada and you're struggling to make ends meet, or you're struggling to find a place to live, or maybe you come to Canada and you have to be renting for the rest of your life. Which it's gonna be based on the needs of everyone, right? But I mean, if you want to buy a house, you want to be able to have that opportunity to do so in Canada and be able to reasonably afford it. So those are some of the things that they're putting in place. You want to be able to go to the hospital. Canada provides free healthcare, right? But there are improvements that can be made, of course, across the country. So again, providing that infrastructure will be important. They will be building, which I find a very interesting one, building an advisory body of newcomers. I find this very interesting, and I would love to see how that plays out. So the advisory body will be, I presume it will be made up of newcomers to Canada, so new immigrants, right, who would share their experiences and help to improve some of the policies and the programs that Canada has where immigration is concerned. So they can help to inform policy and program developments. So I think that would be a really great move to be able to listen to the immigrants. They have gone through the process themselves, and they can share firsthand experience. And that can help to improve the immigration system overall. So I think that would be a really great move for Canada. They will be creating a Chief International Talent Officer position. And so the main point of this is to align immigration programs with pathways to the labor market. So essentially, they will be looking at the labor market in Canada and liaising with the different stakeholders to see where the needs are in terms of jobs and vacancies and so on, and help to align the immigration system. I mean, I think this is going to be a long-term thing. It won't happen overnight, but I think it's a move in the right direction. And then also they plan to make their website more user-friendly. If you work in immigration, or if you have had any interaction with Canada's immigration system, you'll know that there are definitely a lot of improvements to be made to the website and just the immigration systems as well, right? That we have to use to submit applications. So that is a welcome move if they can get that done. So that's basically a summary of some of the announcement that the minister made. And so we're looking forward to see those implemented and to see what will be coming in the short and long term. The other announcement was related to international students. So the international student program. So if you are a current or a prospective international student, then they did make some changes that may impact you at some point, depending on where you are currently in the process. But if you ever plan to study in Canada, even just studying as a pathway to permanent residence, then these changes can definitely impact you at some point, depending, like I said, depending on where you're at. So they did say starting December 1st, they will require post-secondary DLIs to confirm applicants' letters of acceptance directly with IRCC. I think this is a good move. And I speak from personal experiences with clients who have had, they may have been accepted into a DLI, pay their tuition deposits, or sometimes even paying the entire tuition. And later they get a notification that, oh, your offer has been withdrawn, right? And that obviously is not fair to the applicant, especially where you have already submitted your study permit applications. That can have serious consequences for the application. So I think it's a move in the right direction. I don't know how they're going to implement it. I could see it also impacting maybe the processing times for applications, depending on how they implement this with the schools. So starting December 1st, they will require DLIs to confirm your letter of acceptance. And this also is to protect international students from fraud. If you have been following immigration news lately, you would have seen in recent events where some students, a bunch of students from India who came to Canada, and it so happened that their letters of acceptance were fake, essentially. And so it resulted in a lot of these students being repatriated, being sent back home. And so to ensure that, when you go through this process and you invest your time and money and energy, that you are protected and you're not a victim of fraud. So again, this will be something that would be picked up at the point of before you even come, when you apply for a study permit, as opposed to coming to Canada. So what was previously done, it appears that IRCC would process the applications for study permits without any checks into whether the letters of acceptance were genuine or not. I mean, I think if they see any indication of the discrepancies, they would check. But once the letter of offer looks genuine and there are no flags for them, they may process the application as is. So it is possible that applications could go through with, fake acceptance letters and study permits being granted as a result. However, when you come to Canada, there will be an issue, right? Because you have to register for your program. DLIs are required to submit reports to IRCC on who is attending school and who is not. Because if you're not actively attending school, if you're not pursuing your program, then it means that you are not meeting the conditions of your study permit, right? So the long and short of it is that it's to protect international students from fraud. It adds another layer to your application for sure, but I think it's a good move. Then the other one is they said in time for fall 2024 semester, they will adopt a recognized institution framework. And that's going to mean, I guess, different tiers of DLIs. They're all DLIs, designated learning institutions, but they will have a recognized institution framework to to benefit their lives, and again to help to improve service standards and the quality um, of support and applications. So like I said, with students getting, accepted and then later telling them that they no longer have an offer, I think some of these things will help to curb that. And you do have some DLIs that will just give a letter of acceptance to basically anyone, right? So it will help to improve the service standards and the quality of applications as well. The next one is they plan to make reforms to the post-graduation work permit program. And that's why I said if you are a current international student, depending on where you are in your process, these changes could affect you, because a reform in the post-grad work permit program will definitely impact students. I can say, though, I don't know what this reform is going to look like, but historically, when IRCC makes some of these changes, it's usually to benefit students, and it's not going to be, I don't expect it to be anything that will hinder or make the process more difficult for students. You would have seen in recent times, they have extended. I have clients who have received multiple extensions to their work permits, so post-grad work permits. They granted 18 months extensions as a result of COVID and even beyond that. So I don't know what these changes are going to look like. I guess we'll have to watch and see, but I don't expect it to be anything that adversely impacts international students. They plan to make the criteria to better calibrate it to the needs of the labor market. So again, everything goes back to what the labor market requires. It could be that they make different exceptions for depending on the type of job that a student may get. I don't know, but it could be that if they talk about calibrating it to the labor market needs. So we'll see what that looks like. And then, of course, they also talk about Francophone immigration rules. So again, back to the French language, right? So I'll just do a summary of what I just mentioned. So we talked about the immigration levels plan and the announcements that the Canadian government has made in regards to the immigration policies and some of the plans that they have to improve the system and to better calibrate it with the needs of the labor market, to ensure that there's appropriate infrastructure in place to support immigrants when they do come to Canada, so that you can come to Canada and really experience why are people flocking to Canada and have a good experience, as opposed to coming and feeling like, oh gosh, did I make the right decision? But I can tell you, for most people that I've come across, I've not seen anyone who has made the move to Canada. And personally, and I'm just speaking from my personal experience, I'm sure there are others who may have a different experience, but for the clients that I've worked with, they have all come, and I've not seen anyone who said, well, I want to just pack up and go back home. It's not going to be, and I'm not trying to sugarcoat it, it's not going to be perfect, right? Nowhere is perfect. But if you are looking to, have a better quality of life, to have career opportunities, and being able to just experience different things and have access to certain services, and just overall being able to feel safe, relatively safe and comfortable, then the move to Canada can definitely be rewarding. I've seen that for a lot of families, and especially kids. Like the children, they usually, adapt so much. They adjust and they integrate so well into like a new home, a new space, a different country, and it's a big move. It's a big move, especially when you're uprooting yourself from your home and family and all that, to come to Canada. You want to make sure you're making the right decision. Do your research. And like I said, I always say it is a marathon. It's not going to be a sprint. It's not going to happen overnight. So you want to make sure that you have the right plan in place and work with the right immigration partners that can help you to achieve that goal. There are many different ways that you can come to Canada. I can tell you it's getting very crowded in terms of the number of people who want to come. If you look in the Express Entry pool, there are over 200,000 people who are in that pool waiting. And that does not include like the provincial pools as well, right? So, and then when you look at the number of temporary residents who are in Canada, so it's a lot of interest in coming to Canada. So the moment that you feel that you're ready, and if you are qualified, or if you meet the eligibility for the various programs, then you want to definitely work on getting started. If it's a long-term or a longer-term goal for you, I also encourage starting before you're ready, because the depending on the way that you go, the process can also take some time. So you want to definitely start at least knowing your option before you're ready. It would be my recommendation. And for those who are asking, let me just go back over here. Yeah, for those who are asking, you can definitely reach out to us, send us a DM, go on our website. We usually don't start working with a client until we do an initial consultation with that client. So go on our website, nccanadaimmigration.com, and you will see the consultation options there. You can feel free to schedule a consultation to work with us or to find out more about what options might be available for you and your family. So Michael is asking for a summary. I just summarized Michael, but I recommend going back and watching the replays of the video. And I think I did see one or two questions here. Let me just see. Thank you guys for joining. Somebody is asking, to be eligible for Express Entry, do you require a degree or Canadian education? So Express Entry is open to people who are outside Canada, both inside and outside Canada. So you don't necessarily need a Canadian education to qualify. A degree, I would say yes, at least. If you're gonna score enough points, a degree is recommended, or a diploma or something like that. So some sort of post-secondary education I would recommend. Yeah, somebody saying that is it a good time for international students? I think people are getting denied more. That has not been our experience, unfortunately. Fortunately, I should say. It's unfortunate for those students, but I can't say that we have seen that, because a lot goes into a study permit application, and you have to take great care when you're putting together your application, especially for a study permit. A lot goes into it. You have to make sure it's well packaged, well presented. There are no ambiguities. There are no questions that have not been answered proactively in that application. So you want to put together a solid application. So I can't speak to the denials, because we have not seen that for our clients. Do you think being in Canada with a work permit will increase your chances in the Express Entry pool? So, working in Canada will give you additional points. Express Entry is all about points. Outside of the the different category-based draws that I mentioned, and the PNPs. Outside of that, it's Express Entry is about points. So, having Canadian work experience will increase your score for sure. All right. Well, do you suggest doing IELTS now, or wait until closer to submitting? It depends. I'm not sure which application you're recommending. Your IELTS results are valid for 2 years, so you want to take that into consideration. It depends on what you're applying for, though. I'm not sure what you're applying for, so I won't be able to say. Thank you guys for joining today. I hope you found the session informative, and thanks for coming out and interacting, asking your questions. And for those who are looking for further information, I do see some questions there. Some of them I won't be able to answer, but Thanks for joining. Send us a DM on whichever platform you're on, and then, like I said, as always, work towards a goal. It is possible. It's definitely within reach if you're willing to put the work in. So it will require some work and effort on your part as well. And reach out to us if you're looking for support. Reach out to myself and my team. And good luck. And hopefully I get to meet some of you in person in Canada. Until we meet again, take care.